It was a cold morning in a small Texas town, the kind of morning when the wind carries the smell of dust and hay. The rancher, Tom Wallace, was riding his old pickup toward the nearest feed store. He lived alone now. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and his son was away in the army. His days were mostly quiet, spent between his cattle and the endless fields of golden grass. As he drove past the old highway, he noticed a small crowd forming near the gas station. Something wasn't right. He slowed down, squinting through the dusty air. A woman lay on the ground beside a broken-down car. There was blood on her clothes, and a little girl, no more than 6, was crying beside her, holding her hand. Tom pulled over immediately. "What happened here?" he asked, stepping out of his truck. A young man near the car said, "She collapsed out of nowhere, sir. We called for an ambulance, but they said it'll take at least 30 minutes to get here. We don't know what to do." Tom knelt beside the woman. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse weak. The little girl looked up at him with terrified eyes. "Please help my mom. She's going to die," she cried. Tom took off his jacket, folded it, and placed it under the woman's head. "Hang in there, ma'am," he said softly. He looked at the young man again. "You said you called for help." "Yes, but they said they can't send an ambulance unless we pay the fee up front. It's a private service. $10 for emergency coverage." Tom frowned. $10. That was nothing to him, but to this family, it seemed like a mountain. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his worn-out wallet. Inside was a single $10 bill, the last bit of cash he had until the cattle sale next week. He didn't even hesitate. "Here," he said, handing it to the man. "Call them back and tell them I'll cover it." Within minutes, the ambulance arrived, sirens cutting through the quiet countryside. The paramedics lifted the woman carefully onto a stretcher, checking her pulse and blood pressure. Tom stood aside, watching silently as they loaded her into the vehicle. Before they drove away, the little girl ran to him. "Thank you, mister," she said between sobs. "You saved my mommy." Tom gave her a faint smile. "Take care of her, sweetheart," he said. He watched as the ambulance disappeared down the road, the red lights fading into the distance. He didn't think much about it afterward. To him, it was just something any decent person would do. But life has a strange way of circling back. 2 weeks later, Tom was fixing a fence on his ranch when a sleek black car pulled up. A well-dressed man stepped out, holding a folder. "Mr. Wallace," he called. "That's me," Tom replied, wiping the sweat from his brow. "My name's Robert Miles. I'm the CEO of Miles Medical Services, the company that runs the ambulance you called 2 weeks ago." Tom raised an eyebrow. "I didn't call them, I just paid for someone who needed it." Robert smiled faintly. "Yes, sir. That woman you helped, her name is Linda Parker. She's one of our employees. She had a medical condition that caused severe internal bleeding that day. The doctors said if the ambulance hadn't arrived when it did, she wouldn't have survived." Tom looked surprised. "I'm glad she's all right. She told us everything," Robert continued, "about how a rancher she'd never met gave his last $10 to save her life. We wanted to thank you personally." Tom shrugged. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done it." Robert chuckled. "Maybe once, Mr. Wallace, but not in this world anymore." He handed Tom the folder. Inside is a check for $25,000. "It's from our foundation, for acts of community heroism." Tom stared at the papers in disbelief. "That's too much. I can't take that." Robert smiled. "Consider it a gift. But there's more. Linda wanted to meet you herself." At that moment, another car door opened, and the same woman stepped out, pale but smiling, with her daughter beside her. The girl's eyes lit up the second she saw Tom. "Mom, that's him." Linda walked up slowly, holding her daughter's hand. "Mr. Wallace," she said softly. "You don't know me, but you saved my life. The doctors said I was minutes away from bleeding out. You didn't just save me, you saved my little girl from growing up without a mother." Tom felt a lump in his throat. "I'm just glad you're okay," he said. Linda smiled through tears. "We wanted to do something for you. My husband passed away years ago, and I've been raising Lily alone. You reminded me there's still kindness left in this world. So please, let us give something back." From her purse, she pulled out an envelope and handed it to him. Inside was a handwritten note and a key. "The note will explain," she said. That evening, after feeding his cattle, Tom opened the note. It read, "Greater than, dear Mr. Wallace, you gave $10 without hesitation, and that act gave me a lifetime. I've spoken to Mr. Miles, and with his help, we've purchased a new truck for you and covered the repairs your ranch needed. Consider it a small way to repay the kindness that can never truly be repaid. Linda and Lily. Tom put the note down, his hands trembling slightly. He looked outside and saw headlights in the driveway, a brand new pickup, red and gleaming under the moonlight. A little card hung from the mirror. For the man who gave more than money, he gave hope. Tom sat on his porch for a long time that night, the note in his hand. He thought about how a simple $10 bill had rippled into something so much bigger. It wasn't about money, it was about compassion, about being human when the world had forgotten how. Months later, Linda and Lily began visiting the ranch often. The little girl loved helping feed the horses, and Tom found himself laughing again, something he hadn't done much since his wife died. It was as if life had quietly given him a family back. One day, as they watched the sunset together, Lily asked, "Mr. Wallace, why did you help us that day?" Tom smiled, looking at the horizon. "Because, sweetheart, someone once helped me when I needed it most. I'm just paying it forward." The wind blew softly across the fields, carrying the scent of hay and wildflowers. In that moment, Tom realized that real wealth wasn't in the cattle he owned or the money he'd earned, it was in the lives he'd touched and the kindness he'd passed on. And in a small Texas town, people still tell the story of the rancher who gave $10 to save a stranger, and ended up saving himself in the process.